Now let's take a look at providing feedback on others' messages. You will often be asked to provide feedback to others and to help them improve on their messages. For example, you might do peer workshops as you prepare for presentations, or you might just have a conversation with individuals or friends, and you'll be asked to give feedback on that topic. For presentation feedback in particular, there are four primary types of feedback that people tend to give to others, some which are helpful and some which are not. And this is according to Simmons, Myers, Hunt in 2009. Now, here are the four types of feedback. First one is positive, non descriptive feedback, which are comments that indicate that something was done well, but does not explain what was accomplished effectively in detail. Second type of feedback is negative, which are comments that criticize or identify areas that need improvement but do not provide any suggestions for improvement or direction. Next is positive descriptive, which are comments that indicate that something was done well and explain what was effective about those particular elements of presentations. Next is constructive, which are comments that identify areas of improvements and provide specific direction for recommendations for how that part of that presentation might be improved. As you might have guessed, positive, descriptive, and constructive feedback are the most helpful for the individual. But positive, non descriptive, and negative feedback are not very useful because they don't help the other person you're giving feedback to. As you give feedback, don't forget to include positive, descriptive comments. Many people assume that others already know what they are doing well and focus entirely on constructive feedback. Do not assume that people already know when you value or are impressed by them or their work. Positive feedback or complimentary words are often appreciated, especially when positive feedback is specific and said in a clear fashion. Instead of telling a friend that their musical performance was great, be specific. What does their music make you feel or enjoy? Generally, people like to hear that they did well, even if we were shy to admit it. Giving positive feedback may feel strange or awkward for some, but several studies have demonstrated that there are cognitive and social benefits to giving and receiving positive feedback and compliments. And this is according to Azuma and several other authors. It can be challenging to provide constructive feedback to others because we often are concerned about being too critical and not coming across as supportive. One way to help manage this tension is to provide what we call a sandwich or feedback sandwich. A feedback sandwich starts by saying a positive descriptive comment, then shares a constructive feedback, and then ending with a more positive descriptive feedback. By beginning and ending on a positive note, you are balancing positive and constructive feedback to provide clear guidance about what is already working and what can be improved, while also working to protect your relationship and keep lines of communication open for future feedback. Now, it's very important. How we give negative, positive, constructive, and descriptive comments are often a reflection of how we prefer to receive comments. How we respond to negative feedback or critique may be how we are corrected in our childhood by our family members. There are many gendered, cultural, familial, and regional norms for critique that vary across the globe. For example, many of us would not tell our grandmother and our best friend that they are wrong about a topic in the same way. We may be more or less direct, harsh, or honest depending on our relationship dynamic and closeness with an individual. How we give feedback will be adapted based on our intended audience, connection with the speaker and the topic, and communication environment. Think about a time in your life when you received helpful feedback. What did the feedback sound like to you? Was it direct? Was it buried between positive comments? Was it said sarcastically or as a joke? Was it harsh, kind? What was it? Think about it. And whatever helpful feedback you received, reciprocate that when someone asks you for feedback. Now, let's take a look at relationships and feedback. We have talked a lot about how we can improve our listening skills, provide good nonverbal and verbal feedback, and offer messages on others' messages. However, it is also important to keep in mind that both who we as a speaker in our lives and how they frame their feedback will impact the way you receive feedback. Now, if your favorite aunt tells you that perhaps investing your life savings in equipment to build a social media influencer, to become a social media influencer, is not a great idea, you might take this feedback as insulting or as a lack of confidence in your skills. However, if your same aunt positively comments about how amazing of a writer you are and says that you should focus your time and energy on your writing, you may see this as a compliment and not as discouraging comment about a potential future career option. When we meet new people, we seek information about them. We're curious people. You ask questions and learn about who they are, where have they been, what they care about, and why. The more you learn about someone, the more you can adapt your responses and feedback to them. We use previous knowledge about what we have heard or seen from the individual, visual cues about their fashion, and their ethos to make sense of who they are as an individual. So often, we use stereotypes and assumptions to fill in the blanks of what we don't know about someone. Verbal and nonverbal communication practices give us clues about who a person is and what they believe about themselves and others. Relationships obviously matter when giving or receiving feedback. If you have a strong connection with someone and they know you to be a person who has their back and who acts in their best interests, they will be more willing to accept or consider your feedback. However, if you are someone who is known to be self centered, sneaky, or vindictive, others will be skeptical of your intentions and may easily ignore or disregard your feedback. Your reputation about how you treat others will be more recognizable than you realize. Carefully reflect on your delivery, word choices, and demeanor, as well as the professional and power dynamics of the situation when delivering feedback. Just because you appreciate critical, direct, honesty or jokes about your work, do not assume that those who you are giving feedback to want it the same way. How we like to receive feedback may be influenced by a variety of factors, including our mood, commitment to subject argument, socialization, and our relationship with the speaker. When providing a speaker with feedback, we need to think about our responses with a self aware and critical understanding of our embodiments, identities, social positions, and relationships. By recognizing cognitive biases and logical fallacies, we can better understand mental shortcuts and assumptions we make that lead us to poor decisions. By improving our critical thinking, listening, feedback skills, we are able to learn, evaluate, and provide helpful feedback to others. With these tools in hand, you're a lot more ready, and with these tools at your disposal, you are ready to be a thoughtful, engaged, and critical evaluator and curator of messages.